and the Carriagetown News, I believe, we got in there that we're looking for letters of interest. And what we did is we got responses back from a few people. I think most are here. Perhaps the last one is coming later. But just so everybody knows, and we do have a legal opinion on this, sometimes people wonder why sometimes we do things in non-public and sometimes we don't. This is the filling of an elected position. So Diane had sent up to Steve Buckley at New Hampshire Municipal Association, and he stated, as provided in the New Hampshire Supreme Court decision Lambert v. Belknap County Convention, the entire process employed by the Select Board, i.e. interviewing, discussing, and deciding upon a person to fill a vacancy in the Select Board, must be a public process and cannot be conducted during a non-public session. So that's why we're here in public doing this. What would happen is we would, we're going to hear from the candidates. We're approaching this like we would do any Meet the Candidates night. And I'll talk more about that in a second, but here's the key thing to remember, and we talked about it last time. We're appointing essentially for a 10-month term. Okay, so this would get us, i.e. a full board, to the second Tuesday in March of 2023, when this particular seat would then be on the ballot. And I believe, Mary Jo, correct me if I'm wrong, it'd be a split ballot, right? Because there would be 2 3-year terms on one side of the ballot,
Right.
and then this one for a 1-year term. And I believe it's New Hampshire state law that you can't be on both sides of the ballot. So you can't like hedge your bets at that point and sign up for both. But so the unenviable position is that whoever is selected has a 10-month term, followed by, if they want to keep it, have to running for election. If they get reelected in a year, they have to run again. So not the most enviable position. But if you were going to run for anything, as we all have in the past, you have to go see the town clerk, and the town clerk has to sign you up to run, and I think checks credentials. So Mary Jo, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the best one right there.
Typically, when you come to sign up to be a selectman or any other elected office, I have to check the checklist and make sure you are a registered voter. That's why I'm here. I'm gonna make sure you're registered voters. So, and I'm sorry if I don't know you all by name. Your last name, please.
You're gonna have to stay, Mary, thing,
Take the mic with you.
Take the mic.
allow me. You want me to help you? Check, check. Just don't drop the mic. Hey, give me the mic. Let me have the
You
mic.
have the mic. And
Dan, guy.
Dan Guy. That's all right.
Should have mic'd you up.
I mean, some of you I know are registered because you are already hold public office. We need to treat everybody exactly the same. Alrighty. Dan Guy, address? Diane. Dean Biley, you are registered to vote. You are.
The mic.
You looked it.
You're not used to seeing me dressed up.
I'm not.
This is afterward.
Okay, look at all the Connollys.
18 over.
You are Michael Connolly. You're all set.
I was involved in one of these.
How are you, Joe?
They did it in non-public. Didn't know the law then.
Might be before the decision too, which
Yep.
was 2008 was the Supreme
Too many.
I think it was before then.
Court. There you go.
Right at the bottom. Address, please.
7 Quaker and Newton.
You are a registered voter. And, oh, that's a minute, Joe. Thank you.
This way we don't appoint anybody from Massachusetts.
Anyone that's not.
For a second time.
First. Crazy.
L-E-V-L-E-V. It's a brand new checklist. You're not on the voter checklist. You can't. Even if you were to register to vote now, you're pending until the next time the supervisors meet, because they just met last week. And this is a brand new list. Yeah, I'm sorry. However, if you re-register, you are always welcome to run for these positions in March. I'm sorry. And you are on there. I should have given him an option, but there is no option. I know you want to do that, I just got to do it. All right, address? You are all set. You have a clean slate of candidates.
Thank you. So what that comes down to is we have 5 candidates, because we just had one gentleman who's the town clerk could not sign off on, and we had, I believe, another one contacted Diane earlier today and withdrew his name. So we were at 7, we're down to 5. With the board's support, this is the way I'd like to do it. Ask each candidate to come to the podium, introduce themselves. I'm going to put a clock on you of 4 minutes. If it goes 4:01, we're giving you the hook. Then have you all sit down, and I'd like to ask the same questions of every candidate, starting, over here and going around and alternate so the same candidate doesn't go first with each question, and so on and so forth. It should be known that if you didn't know already, it'll be the Board of Selectmen that'll be voting, so I'm going to start with our questions first because it's the primary, but I want to make sure that people can have their opportunity to ask questions, and some on Zoom. If that sounds good to the board, then we can just start. Sound good? Joe. Did you just volunteer to go first?
No, I just had a question. The question is, when are you making this decision?
So I think the plan was, and we can ask the board if they want to divert from the plan, but I think the
Tuesday.
plan is Tuesday to make the
I think
vote.
in the interest of getting things going for these coming meetings, I think you folks have all the information that you need to make this decision tonight. And I'd like to ask that you folks make that decision tonight.
So we did, and I know she's in a conversation over there, but the town clerk has agreed to come to the meeting Tuesday night. So if we vote on somebody at, 6 o'clock when we start, she'll swear them in at, 6:10, and that person will be seated and be part of that meeting.
My question still is, I'd like to see the board make this decision tonight. I think you have enough information, and you have to do it in public anyway, not behind closed doors. So you have enough information in front of you. You've had everyone's information for a while. You'll hear the questions. You should be able to make the decision pretty readily. So I'd like the board to make a motion to do that.
Anybody want to make that motion to change to,
I'll make that motion that we make the decision tonight. I
Okay.
don't have a problem with it.
anybody want a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
What would
Wanna
you like
vote
to
on it?
discuss?
Yeah, I'll stick there with the discussion. It's just the uniqueness of the situation. I hope we're out of here at a decent time, but I would like to sleep on it, Meet the Candidates Night, typically, the normal Meet the Candidates Night is held at least a week before the actual election, so you can think about what you've heard. You might want to do a little research, so I'm sticking with Tuesday myself.
Well, once again, thank you for answering the question, but
Yeah.
I still say that you have all the information in front of you.
Well, Joe, we don't have all the information. That's why you're all here, so we can ask the questions.
Excuse me, you have some of the information in front of you. Thank you.
All right, so there was a motion, there was a second. Anything else before we vote on this motion? So the motion from Charlie was to
Make the decision.
make the decision, hold the vote tonight after.
And we can see that it's going to fail, so.
It might. So all in favor?
No. Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Okay. So I'm going to go in the order that people signed up. Diane can correct me if I've got the order wrong, but I think it was Joe, then it was Anthony,
Yeah.
right? Then it was Dan, I believe?
Yeah.
Or actually, it might have been Rick.
I think they're kind of like a tie.
There was a tie, so they can flip for it, and then I think Mike. So,
Correct.
so Joe, would you like to start off, give us an intro on yourself and your qualifications? And obviously your name and all that good stuff.
Good evening, Board of Selectmen, ladies and gentlemen, and voters of Newton, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to come before you tonight as a candidate to fill the open spot on the board. My name is Joe Simone. I've been a resident of Newton for 44 years. I currently reside on Quaker Street with my wife, Lynn. We've raised both our children here, and that's afforded me the opportunity to do a lot of things within town, interface with a lot of people, a lot of different boards, serving in certain capacities. I was involved in Little League. I was one of the founders of the Sanborn Youth Soccer League. I was a Cub Scout leader and a Cub Master. I served on what we then had way back when as a budget committee. I was part of the Fire Department Building Committee. And most currently, I am serving as the chairman of the trustees of the trust funds, to which I would step aside if I was so appointed. Given these experiences and all the various interactions that I've had with everybody and my background in sales and management, I feel that I have a good fundamental grasp on what it takes to be a selectman, run the town government, and for that, I appreciate your consideration.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
So we will now move on to Mr. Aiello, if you would. Excellent clock management, Joe, by the way. You didn't even come into the...
How you doing?
Go ahead.
Anthony Aiello, 2 Whittier Street. I've been a resident here since 2017. I've pretty much been around Newton my whole life. My wife, when we were dating as teenagers, she lived in Newton. I come around a lot. Not much to say other than I just, wanted to be able to help out, give an opinion. Sometimes I have a different opinion than other people. So I like to see Newton where it's going. I'd like to be a part of, making changes, being a part of going forward to hopefully make some decisions with the capital improvement program. Other than that, that was really it. I just wanted to have my voice heard and, different opinions and go from there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
I think it is, so it's either going to be Dan or Rick. Rick, you want to go?
Hi, my name is Rick Gagne. I appreciate the opportunity to be considered. As you all know, I ran back in March. I live at 53 North Main Street in Newton. I've been in Newton for about 30 years. I run my own business currently. I've been closely watching, all the board meetings for the last several years. I think my outlook and opinion may be valuable being on the board, and I'd like to help as much as I can.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
And I thank Dan Guide, if you would.
Hi, my name is Dan Guide, 15 Bartlett Street. I moved to Newton 3 years ago. I lived in Plastow prior not my whole life. I lived in Plastow prior. Prior to that, I lived in Atkinson. I've been involved in politics in those towns. I'm on the planning board currently. And I just want to help the town. That's all I want to do. I don't have any other agendas or anything like that. I see a hole to be filled, and I want to fill it. That's pretty much it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
And I think it's Mike Conley next, right?
Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. My name's Mike Conley. I'm at 18 Overlook Road in Newton, Hampshire, also known as 18 Overlook Drive, depending on the map you look at. So my background, first off, I'm married. I have 3 kids, 2 of which are still in the school system here. Newton, I bought a house in 2009, so I've been here since 2009. My wife currently is a paraprofessional at the school system, so helps children that need some extra help. If you look at my background, which I have submitted my resume, dates back to college where I've done extracurricular, not just gone to school. I was a resident assistant. I did a lot of volunteer work through college. I ran the student-run transportation department. So I have a vast knowledge of running businesses. Currently, right now, I'm in energy, so I can answer a lot of the questions that the town may have on energy. And I'm also on the Board of Adjustments, so I'm the vice chair on the Board of Adjustment. And I've been there for the last 8 years. Typically, you will not see me at these selectmen meetings because I have been watching online. But I do know what's going on in the town, and my goal, if I was to come on board, would be to work with the board. Obviously, it's not my decision, but be a voice of the people, to work with the board and help this town move forward in its growth. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
So thanks to everybody for the intros, and nobody tried to beat the clock, which was good. So like I said, I want to start with the Board of Selectmen with questions. So I'm going to, Charlie, do you have the first question? Do you want me to start over here? I can start over here.
No.
You're ready?
Yeah. No, I'm not ready.
You're not ready,
I'll
but
do-
yeah, okay. Make it an easy one to start, I
So
guess.
what do? I start from the first person?
So,
Ask one question.
so
And
here's
follow
what we'll
me.
do. So you ask the question, and if it's okay, we'll start with Anthony, and then we'll go down with Rick being the last for this one, but then we'll switch.
Okay. If you win the position, you do know that it's not just 2 nights a month, that it's pretty much around 30 hours a week. Do you have the time for that? And well, I guess he said you're first.
Yeah. Well, they need to hear you on, yeah. So unfortunately, we're going to make you guys walk back and forth.
Sorry about that. Yes, I do have the time. I've been coming to all the meetings, most of them since the election. I've watched all of them. I have the time. 30 hours a week is not a problem. You can call me anytime and email me. I can be here, it doesn't matter.
So you can receive phone calls during the day and stuff
Oh, yeah.
like that?
Yeah, no,
It's not going to hurt your job or anything?
no, I'm a foreman where I work. I can pretty much make my own schedule. So I can be here anytime I need to be, or I can be on the phone or whatever.
Okay,
Not a problem at all.
thank you.
Thanks.
Dan, if you would.
Same question.
So time commitment isn't an issue. I used to be on the school board at Timberlane, and those meetings used to go until 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't think you guys go that late. I own my own business, and it's set up to the point where I can do anything I want to do. So I'm close. One of my stores is in Plastow, so I'm usually close anyways. And obviously, it's not a big deal to answer the phone whenever. It doesn't matter.
Thank you.
Mike, if you would.
Yeah, the time commitment's not going to be an issue. I work most of the time out of my house, so I'm available all day long for phone calls. My work does know that I'm going for this position and is encouraging it, so that's not going to be an issue.
Thank you.
Joe, if you would.
Good evening. As most of you know, I've been advocating the fact that this isn't a 3-hour-a-week job, so the time commitment is not a problem. I'm available anytime by phone, by computer, or whatever. So you can ask anybody. They know I'm around all the time. So time is not a commitment to be able to do the job and interface with everybody and do what you need to do, and hopefully shepherd some of the projects that need to be done.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Will.
Rick, if you want to sit in that end seat when you get back, we'll cut the travel time down for you.
You know, I've been dropping weight anyway, so I'm good.
Yeah, you look good.
Time isn't an issue. I'm available all day. I'm at the shop all day, I can take calls, do what I gotta do. You know, researching all the articles that we're gonna be talking about. I have computers there, everything's right there to my disposal. It's all available.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go to Bob for a question. You probably have more questions, so we'll come back to you type thing. Bob?
So my question to the
So this-
candidates
We'll
is,
start with Dan, just so we know.
I want to know if you have enough humility to be able to say that you don't know something and then turn around and have the ability to learn about whatever it is that you need to know so that the correct judgments can be made to be able to move the town forward.
Absolutely. If I don't know something, I'm going to tell you. But then that night or day, whenever it is, I'm going to go do the research so I do know about it the next time we meet, send an email,
And
whatever.
can you give me an example of the last time you did that, maybe?
Of when I didn't know something,
And yeah, and you asked for help.
with my business, I have people that I'll depend on if I don't know something. Like, if you really want me to get into it, if I don't know about a certain tire, I'll reach out to them and they'll get back to me, and then I'll educate my managers and my employees about that specific tire. Is that a good example, or? Okay.
Thanks. So Mike, you'd be next.
So to answer that question, I have 3 kids, and they know more than I do. Just ask them. Right? So at the end of the day, I have 8 people now that report to me in energy. And if you think you know it all about energy, and I've been doing this for a long time, you don't. You have to be humble. Okay? There's a lot of litigation. There's a lot of utility. Everything's got red tape to it. So you're constantly, if you're in this field, in a learning mode, because just when you learn something, there's something else that's coming down depending on the state, depending on the independent system operator that you're dealing with in this country. So an example, I don't deal a lot with California. And we had some issues come in regarding what's called renewable energy certificates and how they can be bought and sold. And I had to reach out first to our legal who didn't know that had to do the research. So for me, I'm not going to raise my hand and say I know it all, but I have resources and I know how to get things accomplished as far as getting that knowledge back and then share it with the board. That would be how I would do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Joe?
I think we learn every,
Said Joe.
I think we learn every day, and I do not have a problem researching. As a matter of fact, I do a lot of it during for my work and stuff like that. Do not have a job researching anything, and also being told, well, you're wrong, you know, look into it. So, you know, no problem there. One of the most recent issues that I had, I'm going to talk with Diane. I asked Diane a lot of questions about certain things and having to do with telephone computers and things like that, and she, you know, gives me the answers right off the bat. Not that I'm not computer literate, but sometimes some of the nuances just get to me. So, no problem learning new things.
Thanks. Rick, you're up.
So every day you learn something new. You're not going to know about everything, but you need to have the ability to be able to know where to find the information or who to talk to find it. I deal with it day in and day out. You know, people come in and they want things, and you just can't know it all. And if you're not comfortable, you need to find out what you need to know to do the jobs.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rick.
I think, Anthony, you'll be the last one this time.
Hello. Yeah, I have no problem asking for help. I don't know everything, and I don't claim to know everything. Actually, last year was my first year doing a big light show. I had no idea what I was doing. When I preached it out, I did hundreds of hours of research to get a show up and running in a couple months, so not a problem at all. If I have to learn something, I will. If I do the research, or I have no problem asking.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
So I'm going to ask my first question, and I think we're starting with Mike on this one. As I think everybody knows who's followed our meetings, New Hampshire RSA 91A is probably the most important statute we deal with. So in your own words, could you kind of define, in your own words, what that statute means? And could you give us an example of where it can best be applied?
I did not do that research. I saw that on the minutes, and I did not get into that today because of some other issues. So I'm just gonna be honest with you. I will not speak to that because I'm not well versed on it at this time.
Okay. I will, just for everybody, this is the right to know law, if that changes anybody's.
I know, but I don't.
Okay, okay, all right. Thank you. Joe?
This would be something that I would need to read up on and learn. I know there's a lot to do with right to know in terms of what you folks do, and in terms of a lot of the stuff that's going on right now with litigation that nothing can be told about. So if it need, no problem digging into it and finding out exactly and abiding by it. And it's one of those things that you mentioned the previous question about learning, another learning experience.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're over to Rick for the third one.
So, I don't know a lot about the RSA 91A, but I do know it is the right to know laws. It's a matter of reading them and remembering them. And I have all the literature that I can do that with. As you know, my wife attended a lot of those different seminars, and she still has all the books and everything to go through, which I have been reading. But there's a lot of information in those to read, so you have to take it one day at a time.
All right, thank you. And I think we're over to Anthony.
I'm going to give you much of the same. I don't know anything about that RSA. I can do some research into it, and maybe I'll know more about it on the next board meeting, but I do not know that today.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're ending with Dan on this question.
So 91A is the right to know law. I've taken a couple classes on it. It's the public's right to information. So if you send him an email, I can 91A that and see what you said about a specific thing. Or I can email whatever the administrator is right now and say anything that says X, I need that information between this date and that date, and she'll provide it for me within 30 days, unless she needs an extension. But it's pretty much the public's right to know everything, so the backdoor stuff doesn't happen. And it can't happen because people do this, and that was the reason behind it, is they didn't want stuff underhanded going on that the public didn't know, because it was happening a lot, and they needed to stop it. Okay.
Thank you. All right, so I think we're back to Charlie for a question.
Who's up?
I think it is Joe first. Yep.
Are you familiar with the zoning laws as well as the town regulations?
I have to say that I'm not, but once again, that's just an opportunity to learn something else, some additional information necessary to do the job. So, once again, it gets back to one of the questions that Bob asked about, are you okay with learning new things?
All right, and I think that's Rick for the second one.
Yeah, no, I don't know very much about the zoning laws. If you don't use it on a regular basis, most people aren't going to know about it unless they need to know about it. So it is something that needs to be learned if that's what you're using on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. I think, Anthony, you're next.
Yeah, currently I don't know any of the zoning laws. I actually wanted to start looking into it after the discussion on the property that was being bought on Thornell, and then the piece of land that they were looking to buy, because I would like to know more about the zoning laws, what the people's rights are to build and not build, and do that, but I haven't got into it just yet.
Thank you. And Dan.
He knows.
So the best I can say is that I'm learning them. I think I got a book this thick when I got on the planning board that has them all. There's plenty to learn, but I know some of them.
Thank you. Mike?
So yes, I have that same book, being on the adjustment board. I will tell you, no, I do not know every one of the statutes, but 8 years digging into that book, I know exactly where to go to find it. So, hope that answers your question.
And did we start with Joe? I think we started with Joe, right? Okay, so I got to keep up here. So it's a Bob question now.
Are you willing to put your dedication to office before some of your family matters? And can you give an example?
So we're starting with Rick on this one.
The answer would be yes, pending on the family matters, okay? There are some things that you just can't put in front of. So, you know, the honest question would be yes and no. It really depends on the situation, you know?
Thank you. And, yeah, Anthony.
Yeah, I would have to say I could. Family is first. It would also depend if it's life-threatening family issues, then they're obviously going to come first. But if, you know, other than that, I can put the board first. Certain family things have to go before this, but 99.9% of it would be the board first.
And Dan.
So it is an elected position, so that, to me, that's important. I did say I was at meetings until 1 o'clock in the morning because that was my job. That's what I had to do. I did what it needed to be done, so that's my answer.
Mike, if you would.
So yeah, putting things in front of the family, they're used to that right now, so that's fine. But again, depending on what that event, like if I'm gonna miss my kid's wedding, no. But do I know what sacrifice is? The answer is yeah. Do I know how to put my priorities straight? Absolutely.
Thanks. Joe?
Yes, I'd have to say that that's a yes and a no answer. As an elected official, you have an obligation. However, you also have an obligation to your family, and there are certain times where you just can't, you can't get out of things. And I just harken back to a meeting probably maybe 2-3 months ago when the chairman made some mention about the fact that there are certain times where you can't, you can't be there, and those things do happen. So it's a yes and a no, and the most part, you have an obligation until you stick with your obligations.
I think Rick, actually, you were the last one. I'm confusing myself here. So everybody's answered, right? We're good? So now it's on to me. Okay. Could you please, and we're starting with Anthony again, right? So could you please describe for me a situation, whether it's in your professional or personal life, where you were a decision maker and you had your mind set on one solution, yet somebody was able to convince you to go with another solution, and how were they able to do that? Okay, Anthony?
Yeah, well, I'm a foreman for the company I work at. I make decisions all the time. But sometimes I'll have to reach out because I know that my way of doing things isn't always the right way. So I do ask for help to get somebody's other opinion. Doesn't mean I'll always change the way I'm going to do something, but I do try to get other people's opinions. And if I do feel that it's better than the one I'm doing, then I will go with that. But every day I make decisions for my company, based on budget and money and time. So, but, sometimes I'm wrong, and I do ask for help and see how, somebody else would do it. And then if, like I said, if it makes sense to me, then I do change the way I was going to do it.
Thanks. Now, Dan?
In my business, I'll meet with my managers and discuss with them certain things that we're doing or whatever, what have you. The last one was a piece of equipment we were buying, which was really expensive. And I wanted a specific one, maybe because it was shiny and it was the newest thing and I wanted it. But one of my managers that's been with me for, I don't even know, over 30 years, he had said, he's like, no, this is the better one to go with, and showed me why, and I accepted it and went with his experience instead of getting the shiny one, so.
All right, thank you. Mike?
So, yeah, on a daily basis, you know, leading a team of folks, I have to make decisions, so I'm used to decisions. I think the best way to answer that question, though, is to give you my example, I should say, on the Board of Adjustments. So we have to make decisions as a board, and we have to come to a vote. And just like here tonight or other nights you're here, you have discussions. And I can't remember the piece of property, but you know, I'd done my research. I was ready to put my heels in the ground, right, and stick by my decisions that I was going to do. But it was Roger Hamill's understanding of things and really having the ability to go back to the book, talk about it, relook at how that was really written, and taking the emotion out of it and really looking at what those words really said changed my mind, right? He had the ability to, let's really take a step back and look at this. And so that would be a real example of how I was able to change my opinion and come to a better decision.
Thank you. Joe?
Me again?
No, we're still going.
It's very thought-provoking.
We'll tire somebody out maybe before too long.
I guess I have to go back to my professional career. Several years ago, we were consolidating territories, and we had, I want to say, probably 5 or 6 individuals that we needed to either remove or terminate or one thing or the other. But I had made a decision based upon the numbers as to what we needed to do, and my boss called me and he said, he said, probably you need to look at this situation, look at that situation. And he was able to change my mind because I had to look at the individual's personal and family situation, and that helped me make that decision to hopefully do the right thing, and I think I did the right thing in the long run, so.
Thank you. And Rick is the last one on this question.
I think pretty frequently you're forced to look at situations and somebody has to enlighten you on changing your mind about something. You're not always going to have the best thoughts. You're always going to have an open mind in order to change your mind. I think it happens to most married people daily. Okay? You listen to your wife? I do. A lot of times she's a lot smarter than I am. Okay? I can tell you that from experience. So you're always forced to change your mind. I mean, we just had our house done. Siding or paint? She went with siding. Why? Okay, because you ain't got to do anything when it's done. So, there it is.
Thank you. I think because you complimented your wife on cable TV, that gets you a lot of points. Yeah, we all make sure everybody works that in at some point. Charlie. Charlie, you have a
Okay.
question. I think we're starting with Dan, right?
Yeah, okay. Are you able to fire or hire employees even if you know their home experiences? I.e., they may be having a marital problem, they may have kids problems, they may have an alcohol or drug problem.
Been through this, I couldn't even tell you how many times. It's part of doing business, hiring, firing. Do you like it? No. Is it part of the way to move forward? Yes. A long time ago, I had taken a class about this, and it was about the poison. One guy can ruin a whole group and make the whole group poison, and it's your job, my job, to find that poison and get rid of it before that happens. So I've been there, I've done that, and it is what it is.
Yep.
This is business. This isn't,
Thank you.
Thanks. So Mike?
So being able to hire and fire people, that's something that's part of the job that I do. It's been part of my career the last 30 years. But at the end of the day, I don't fire people, they fire themselves, based on their actions, based on the things that they do, based on some event.
Good answer.
It's not a personal thing.
Yeah, good
If you make it personal, you're hurting somebody's career or their life, and you can't do that. So I'll leave that there.
Thank you. Joe?
I guess this goes back to the previous question where I had to make
I know
that that decision. But what I will say, when it comes to the town, if a decision has to be made, it has to be in the best interest of the town, because the town has to be put first above all.
Good answer.
Thank you. I think Rick?
Yeah, well, hiring and firing people is never a pleasant job. It does happen in the real world. I don't see a lot of that going on with selectmen. Not in the past, and I certainly ain't seeing it in the future. But it isn't an issue when you have to let somebody go. If it's in the best interest of your job, then you've got to do what you got to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think Anthony's the last one on this question.
Yeah, I've been put in the position of hiring and firing, and you really can't get personal about it, but you have to look at the bigger picture. You know, sometimes you keep people around even though they're annoying or they do this, but if they have something that makes them better for the business, then you put up with the other stuff to deal with that. So it's a lot of give and take. You know, not everybody just, you know, when they do one thing, you just get rid of them, or, you know, that's not the way it has to go. You have to really think about process and then make the right decision that works as a whole for everybody around you. But yes, I could do hiring and firing if I had to for the sake of the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think this is a Bob Marchand question, starting with Mike.
Yep. So I'm going to warn you right now that this is being recorded in case you forgot. So we are going to go back if you lie later on and we find it to be true. My next question is posed like this. So being a selectman, it's not just showing up here to be a selectman. We also have other roles. We are liaisons for other departments, right? We work with the other departments. So we have to make ourselves available, not just for the meetings here and what's going on, but we have to get involved to make sure that all the other departments are working properly, and if they need help or assistance, that they can come to us, that they have that open door so we can keep that line of communication going. So like Mike, Matt goes with the recreation department and stuff, and I happen to be the ex officiato on the planning board and a liaison to the transfer station. Are you willing to reach out and do the same to these other departments and take on some of these positions?
Okay, Mike?
So the answer is absolutely. And my hope would be not only just to reach out to the different departments, but to get to know them. That's part of why I'm going for this position, is because I'd like to get to know the town more in depth and the different departments more in depth. Sitting on the adjustment board, I get to see a little bit of it, and I'm hoping to open my eyes to a lot more and become a lot more familiar with the town.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, as many of you know, I've been advocating this for a while because I found that in the past, the board has taken a laissez-faire attitude, let someone else do it, and nothing gets done. There's a lot of programs, a lot of things that aren't being shepherded that need the watchful eye of a selectman to look over them and to see the project through. It can't just dump everything on the administrators to do. The selectmen have to take an active role in being part of what's going on, learning about the various departments, working with these people if necessary to see what is happening. So yes, I'm a firm believer in working with all these people.
Thank you. I think it's Rick.
The answer to that would be yes. And if you're a liaison for one of the other departments, it's also good to try to work with that department to see if you can't make their process easier and better, and what's best for the town. You know, how can you work out the problems they're having? So you're learning and trying to solve problems at the same time.
Excuse me.
Great. Anthony?
Yeah, I would have no problem helping out other boards, being a liaison. I'm new to this, so I don't know which boards are looking for liaisons. You know, if I were to be elected, hopefully one of you guys would lead me in the right direction, show me who could use some help, or, you know, I could, you know, look myself and see who needs it, but maybe if you already knew someone that was, you know, a department that already needed the most help, it would be good to go with them too. But I have no problem being a liaison or doing anything other than just being a selectman. It doesn't, you know, my job wouldn't end at sitting at the table and going to the meetings. Whatever you needed me to do, I would do. So, thanks.
Diane, you got all that
Thank
down?
Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with that. I hate to keep going back to this, but when I was on the school board, I was on safety, facilities, energy, all of them. Safety, met with the fire department and the police department to make sure to have meetings and figure out how the school was safe and all that other stuff. That's part of the job.
Thanks. And I think, so we start with Joe on this one, right? Okay, so the word micromanagement is a word that gets thrown around a lot, whether it's by, you know, people who might work in town, people who don't work in town, or people running for office. Sometimes they say we have too much micromanagement, others say we don't have enough. So my question is, could you give us a definition in your own words of what you think micromanagement means and how you've seen it, whether in the town or in your own professional life, and how you've dealt with it or how you would advise on how to deal with it. So, Joe, you have the luxury of going first.
Unfortunately, there's been a lot of micromanagement in this town where a lot of people know and feel they know how to run a particular department better than the people that are doing it, the professionals that are hired to do it. Okay, I lost my train of thought. Could you repeat that? Just give me.
So the first part of it is how would you define micromanagement, and the other part would be how have you, can you give an example of it and how you would deal with it?
Okay, micromanagement, once again, like you have certain selectmen putting their nose into the business of, say, let's just say the fire department. Well, they don't know what the hell they're talking about because they're not there and they don't know the day-to-day operations. I am a firm believer of having department heads run their department with oversight, budgetary oversight, and personnel oversight. I've seen a lot of that happen in this town over the years. Still goes on to this date. And we need to correct that culture. We need to have a culture change. We're operating this town as though we're operating in the 1980s. This is the 2022s. We need to bring the town up to speed in that. And we cannot have people micromanage department heads. Department heads should be able to run their own department. If they don't do it properly, then you bring them before the board in executive session and hash it out. That's one of those things where I think monthly meetings have to be instituted with the department heads on a rotating basis to see what their issues are, what the problems are, to hopefully that'll prevent a lot of the micromanagement from happening. Hopefully I've answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. And Rick, you would be next.
Micromanagement means that you're spending way too much time trying to do a department head's job for him. You shouldn't have to do that. It's not good for morale, and it doesn't really accomplish much. I think it's a demotivator more than anything. You know, you're there to help that department head, you know, talk to him. And you shouldn't go beyond that. I mean, you're not going to run around to all the other employees at the transfer station telling him or these guys what the department head should be doing. You know, it's something that you should be worked out, and it's not good. That's about it.
Thank you. I think we're over to Anthony.
Micromanaging, not a fan of it. Honestly, it's just, there's really no place for it. You give people a job to do, let them do it. If they don't succeed, then you move on, get another person to do the job. But to sit and take that much time and energy to look over somebody else's job instead of focusing on your own, it just doesn't make sense. Just really not a fan of micromanaging. There's really no need for it in any job. You know, you hire people to do a job, let them do their job. Even if you don't agree with the way they're doing it, there might be a reason they do it that way. Let it play out. Watch how it goes. You don't have to nitpick and tell them how to do it or how they're doing it wrong. Let them, let their way of doing it, work for a little bit. And then if it doesn't work, then you just change. You get a new person. That's really all I have to say on that.
Thank you. And I think we're over to Dan.
I think we all know what micromanagement is, but I'll give you an example. Fictitious. Mike says he needs 110 things of salt, right? To salt the roads. I'm not going to tell him he can do it with 50 because that's his job, not mine. He knows that stuff, not me. So that's an example of, to me, what micromanagement would be.
Thank you. Mike?
So micromanaging is on a daily basis telling somebody what their job is. And if you've ever been under a micromanager, it's grueling. It's like getting your teeth pulled out without Novocaine, right? So it's a painful situation. I'm not a fan of micromanagement. I think if you look at what goes on in the town or any business, you need to set goals. Those goals need to be met. You need to help people that are trying to meet those goals, and you give guidance versus telling. You coach, motivate, and mentor people versus sitting there and telling them and dictating what needs to be done. Micromanagement doesn't do anybody any good. You hire people to do a job because they have experience. You've interviewed them, you've gone through all their credentials. Why not let them do their job? And they should be able to do their job if you did your due diligence up front. And if it's a bad hire, you reset expectations, make sure everybody's on the same playing field, and you move it forward. And if they're moving forward in the right direction, you monitor it. You don't step in. That's where I'd leave that.
Thank you. And so we started with Joe, so we're starting with Rick on the next one, and I think it's a Charlie question.
Are you a person that reacts to situations or acts to situations? Are you a person that reacts to a situation or acts?
Most of the time, I would like to ask about the situation rather than react to it. There are times where you react when you shouldn't react. But you got to be able to think it through, so you want to ask what they're really talking about before you react. So I would say I'd like to be able to ask about it more than react about it.
Thank you.
And I think we're over to Anthony.
I'm more of an actor. At the end of the day, you just got to get it done. Your feelings aside, you don't need to throw a little temper tantrum about things. You just, do whatever needs to get done, move forward, and go on from there. That's really all there is to it.
Okay.
Thanks. Over to Dan.
So I don't react, I act to the situation. If you react, it's going on that first instinct you get where you may be mad or whatever, and that's not the thing that you want. You want to take it in and then make an informed decision, whatever it may be you're doing. So,
Thank you. Mike?
Depending on the situation, I don't react to anything, but the first thing I do is ask some clarifying questions to understand, right? If there's something in front of you and it's obvious, right, start to act and fix it. But a lot of times when the situation's brought to your attention, you need to drive some clarity to that, and you ask questions to really understand what you're really dealing with before you start putting that action in place. So that's how I'd answer that.
Thank you. Joe?
I believe you need to have a healthy balance of the two. We all have a tendency to react, but then again, you have to take a step back and ask the questions, see what the situation is, find out what the solutions, what the answers are, talk to people, and then you can act. So you have to have a healthy balance of the two. But I would say sometimes I do have a tendency to react, as you well know, based upon some of our meetings we've been in. But then again, you sit back and you take a look at things, and you act in a different manner because you've got the information, got the answers, and you've learned something.
Thank you. So I think we're starting again, and I think it's a Bob Marchand question. You're good with questions? Okay, so it's over to me. So I think, Anthony, you're going first this time. For those who, observe our meetings, that we have a budget process. In my opinion, that's the most important thing we do. We start that, I think, in late October. We don't really wrap it up until town meeting the following March. So based on your observations of our current budget process, what do you think are the pros and cons of what we currently do? And what would you offer as a way to improve our budget process? So Anthony, that's first one.
So I'm new to the whole selectman idea thing. I actually haven't seen any of the meetings that have to do with the budget process. But to start with, I think that like everybody else in America, we all have to live within our means. The town does too. Whatever the budget is, we need to keep to it, not go over it. We don't just want to throw numbers at budgets to, make taxpayers pay more money for things that, because the people sitting here didn't do the due diligence to write a budget right, and then has to burden the taxpayers with more problems. So I would like to learn more about the budget process and how you guys go through, like you said, from October to March when it's put together, but I'm willing to learn that part of it and see how it happens, and I'd love to be a part of it.
Thank you. I think Dan?
So I'll be honest, those aren't the meetings that I watch, right? They're not the most entertaining, right?
We live them. So
I know. I've been through many, though, between the different boards I've been on, my own business and everything else, so I'm hoping that I can bring something to the board that will make it a little bit better. Not more entertaining, but better.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I'll say I haven't watched the budget meetings, but having gone through the budget process on the private sector for several decades now, and it's painful tasks, I understand budgeting processes. Well, one of the things that I would say that I would bring to the table is a fresh set of eyes, right? The numbers don't tell the story. I say this all the time in the budgeting. The numbers don't tell the story. You need to understand what the story is. So what is the goal of that year? What are the improvements of that year? What is the fire department, the police department? What's the building maintenance? What are those goals? And are those accomplishables? Not the what I want to have, it's the must-haves. And then if there's things that you're trying to do to move a town forward, what is it that can be put aside to do that? Not all in one gulp, right? You can't do everything in 1 year. It's like any business. You can't just go out and spend. So you got to figure those pieces out and make sure you're moving forward to those goals. And that's what I would offer.
Thank you. Joe?
I think first off, every selectman should participate in the sessions which the state office offers, so that way you have a firm understanding of what the budgetary process is. I sat through some of those meetings, and it's like, I'll tell you, it's like watching grass grow sometimes. But then again, you talked about micromanagement earlier. That's where some of the micromanagement comes in. I think if I were appointed a selectman, I would work with with our internal staff and the department heads to make sure that they have in their budgets what they need to conduct their day-to-day business. Typical example is, I think there was an issue recently where we're looking for money to do maintenance on a generator system. Wasn't in the budget. Where's the money? I don't know. Where's the money coming from? Another instance was the fire chief was looking for mats for the floors to protect the floors. Well, the Board of Selectmen voted it down. They said, have him take it out of his budget. There's no money in it. Things like that have to be budgeted for. They also the departments have to know what is covered under town buildings. I'm sure there's a whole list of things that's covered under town buildings that could take care of some of those costs as well. So there's a lot of things that go into the budget, but the budgetary process is really key to running this town. And I think moving forward, it's going to be more important because our infrastructure is falling down around us, our buildings are falling down, and we need to budget to repair some of those things or look for solutions. So budgetary processes, it's probably, in my priorities, it's probably the top of the second set of priorities that I would say right now.
Thank you. Rick?
The budget is probably the most important job you guys do as selectmen. It's difficult to stay within budget in most departments, but understanding how they run their budget and what is involved, and then not later saying we've got this, this, and that, but it ain't in our budget. That's in a building budget. No, it's in your budget. It's in your building. I've seen it, I've heard it. So it needs to be paid close attention to. And there's a lot of things about the budget, as Joe said, that have to be looked at. And it's very time consuming to look at that and understand it. So I haven't done a lot of budget work myself, but I have seen some of it. So, and I would be intrigued to learn more about it.
Thank you. And I think we started with Anthony, right? So that's a Charlie question, starting with Dan.
This is kind of an unfair question because there's only 3 years that it pertains to. If you're not chosen for this position, right, would you be dropping out of the position that you hold now?
If you are chosen.
Say it again?
You said if you're not chosen.
I said, if you're not chosen for this position as selectman, right, and you're on another committee for the town, would you be dropping out of that committee because you're upset you didn't?
No, I know that, yes, I will.
No, you don't have to. I'm just saying, would you, if you weren't chosen?
So if I'm not chosen for selectman, would I drop out of the planning board?
Correct.
No.
Okay.
So essentially, what he's asking is, would you get resentful and then say the hell with it and not
Of course
serve?
not.
So can I speed this up and we won't make people walk up to the microphone? Anybody want to say yes to that? Like you said, it's only 3 people that have positions, so I think it's Mike and Joe. What's your yes or no? I won't drop. Okay, perfect. That makes it not everybody has to walk up to the mic. So by the way, for the people on TV, everybody said they would keep their current position should they not get appointed to the selectmen. Bob, do you have a question?
No, I'm all set.
All right,
Wanna go back to the
I'll
public?
we'll get to the public here soon. So let's see. Okay, and I think we're starting with Mike. Could each of you give me an example where you've been responsible for introducing technology into the workplace to solve a problem?
Yeah, so on a couple of occasions in my career, I've implemented Microsoft databases, Salesforce databases, also known as CRMs, so that we have better communication. So a couple things. One, better better communication with our customers, understanding our customers, and then ultimately better communication up through senior management so they have a bird's eye view of that. So the answer to that is yes. Do you want details or any?
Well, an example, but I think you
I
gave
gave the
us an
examples,
example.
yeah, but I mean, I can go in depth, but I don't want to bore you too. Okay.
Appreciate it. So Joe, right.
Yes, I have to go back to my professional life in sales where because of, I was roughly responsible for 1/3 of the United States, and to do that, we had to institute a lot of, back then, texting was just coming into vogue, so we had to do a lot of group texting and group emails and sharing on work group sharing. So I have done that in the past, and it's not a problem.
Thank you. Rick?
Back when I worked for this company called Polyonics, we were developing a process to metallize Kevlar yarn or monofilaments. So we had to build a machine that would handle the fibers, and it had to go in and out of chemical tanks. And the tension was the biggest problem, was keeping the tension low. We were successful, and at the end of the day, they came up with a product called Aerocon, which they use in space applications. It's a metallized Kevlar yarn that can flex pretty much indefinitely without breaking.
Thank you. I think we're over to Anthony.
I have not had the chance to do that. I do like the opportunity. I love technology. Just the company I'm at is, we don't really have a use for it. So I've been doing the same thing for 26 years, and they don't. The people above me aren't fans of technology, but I am, and I'd be willing to, try to look for new ways of using it. But currently, I haven't been able to.
Thank you. I think Dan's got that one.
So, yeah, I had to buy a new POS system for my stores, and originally it was a DOS system that we were on, and I wanted to bring us further into this century. So I had to go out and visit different places that had different POS systems, decide which one to buy, and then implement it. 22 employees, none of them quit. I trained them all, so I think I did all right. So
Is POS, that's point of sale, right?
yeah.
Like a
So
cash
everything,
register? Yeah.
inventory,
Yeah.
accounts receivable, everything was in. I chose the one that did everything.
Cool, thank you. Charlie, do you have a
No,
question?
I'm good.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we open the floor, so to speak, to the public who's here and also on Zoom if anybody's got any questions. But I bet you Diane's got a couple of questions. You want me to do them first? Okay, all right. Because she's famous at the Meet the Candidates night. She always has her questions, so I know.
Stolen a few of my questions.
I know, I bet we have. We had the luxury of hearing you the
Yes.
last few years, so.
Yes, I think you've stolen quite a few.
So we're going to ask, anybody in the room that's asking a question, raise your hand, be recognized, and then come to this microphone. So I saw Jamie's hand go up first.
Okay.
Hi, Jamie Fitzpatrick. I'd like to know what each candidate thinks the most pressing issue facing the town is and what their thoughts are on how to address it.
All right, so I think we're starting with Joe. Is that where we left off? Thank you.
I think one of the
Can we
top
hold on
priority,
one
one of my
minute?
top
Oh,
priority,
Wait 1 second.
I'm sorry.
I think it was on mute. I didn't have my glasses, yeah.
People have been trying to mute me for a long time.
Sorry, just repeat the question.
So repeating the question, I'd like to know what each candidate's thoughts are, the number one issue facing the town and what their proposed solution for ideas are on addressing that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think my number one priority at this point in time would be working to hire a new town administrator. because what this town does functions around the town administrator, and secondarily, it would be to find a replacement for the selectman's administrative assistant, because without those two folks, this town will go nowhere, because there's a lot of things that have to be done that you folks don't know about, that these folks do on a day-to-day basis to keep our town functioning. Secondly, I think I already said that the budgetary process would be a big priority because, folks, our town is falling apart in front of us. We have done nothing to our infrastructure in probably 15, 20 years. I think it comes up at every meeting. Budgetary process has to be an issue. We have issues with our roads, and our road agent has been up here telling the selectmen about it. Once again, it gets to budgetary issues. So we have some issues in front of us that we need to address. But I would say the town administrator, getting that position filled in a replacement for the selectman's assistant, and the budgetary process a key.
So I think, Jamie, just to be fair, you said what are your ideas to, right?
Just how you plan on addressing it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think we're in the process right now of soliciting candidates for the town administrative position. We will be doing the same thing down the road for the selectmen's assistant. So that's a process that the Board of Selectmen is handling through the State Municipal Association, I believe. Am I correct on that?
Well, it's MRI.
MRI, okay, very good.
They're private, they're not
Right.
state.
In terms of the budgetary process that I talked about, I think I would like to get more involved, as I said, with the budgetary process, to look at those line items, to see where the money is, where it's being spent, what needs to be done, ask each department what needs to be done to your building, for you to maintain your buildings, to maintain your equipment, and to do your day-to-day business. So we don't have to keep coming back and begging the selectmen for more money every time. So it's a collaborative effort on everyone's part.
All right, thank you. So I think we're over to Rick.
I agree that Nancy is the number one person to look into and make sure that that position gets filled with somebody that has the ability to do what she does, which is just about everything, and Diana as well. Looking at the budget to see where money's going to come from. I mean, we definitely need to do more with the roads, the infrastructure. Mike will never keep up with the roads with his budget. So where does it come from? It's going to take a lot of work to go through that in the budget and to find out how we can get the money and where it's going to come from. So other than that, until you're working on it, I don't have really any other ideas.
Thank you. I think we're over to Anthony.
I think the budget's a big problem. A lot of the departments, I looked through the annual reports, there's one department that seems to go over budget every year. A lot of other departments are under budget. I do think that we need to maybe rebalance the budget. Again, I've never been a part of that, but I would like to be a part of that to see what money's wasted, what money's not wasted. If it's put in, maybe one department has too much of a budget that they're not using, and that money can be put to another department that needs the money desperately. But I do think that we have a money problem in the town, and I don't think that raising the taxes every year is the answer. I think we've got to go back to the roots and see where the money's going and how it can be spent better.
Thank you. I think it's over to Dan.
So currently, I think the most important issue is the town administrator, but I'm not worried about that. I'm sure you guys are going to pick a fantastic candidate. The budget is an issue, as it's on everybody's mind because they all pay taxes, and every time we get a tax bill, it blows up and everybody gets mad again, and then it's the school or what have you. A big part of that is the capital improvement plan. I haven't looked into yours. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's on it. But that's where it starts, to keep the infrastructure together and keep buildings up to code or date or whatever has to be done. And it's not you're not going to do it in 10 months or however long, whoever it's gonna be as a selectman, but it's gotta start somewhere, and it's building blocks with a capital improvement plan. So you gotta make a plan and stick to it and get through it.
Thank you. I think we're over to Mike.
So yeah, I'll echo, I think the town administrators, but again, you're working on that, so I'm going to leave that there. I think there's a cloud over the town right now, and I think you guys have some tough decisions to make. But I think there's a selectman who's not here right now, and that needs to be resolved. And I think for the town people, that itself needs to be resolved to get the cloud away from this board and from this town and the people that are really in charge of this town. So I think that right now is a priority.
Thank you. And we started with Joe, right? So we're done with Jamie's question. I think I saw Ms. Gagne. Did you have your hand up there? Or in the vicinity?
Here you go. And it's not on.
All right, this is, I'm not so sure if it's more of a question or, and it is directed towards 3 out of the 5. My concern here is that these 3 candidates all currently hold a position on another board. If they are selected by this board to fill a vacancy, all they're doing is creating a vacancy on another board. I think the board would be doing the town a disservice by playing the rolling game, jumping from board to board.
So is there a question in there? Or?
Well, I said I didn't really think it was a question
Okay,
or
all right,
a statement.
Can I speak to that, please?
I think so. Go ahead.
So I think that's a valid question. Because a lot of people in this town, especially younger people, aren't stepping in to the community to help out. Well, with that said, if you're looking at the board that I sit on, there's alternates, and there's a reason for alternates, that they would step in. Somebody would take over my vice chair position, and an alternate would then come to the board. So you would still have a full board. So that is a process that can be taken care of as far as the board that I sit on.
Anybody else want to? It's not really a question, but if you want to comment on the outlook.
Currently being as one of the trustees of the trust fund, I've already spoken to my trustees and basically have advised them if I do get appointed, I would step down and that there would be a need to bring forth or to find another person to fill that vacancy. So I don't think there would be a problem there. And we're just not playing hopscotch. I mean, I've been in the background for many, many years, doing a lot of things, seeing a lot of stuff that's going on that I don't like, and I feel now that I'm semi-retired. I have a lot of time to dig into some of these things and to help where I can.
Thank you. Dan, are you good? Or okay. Any hands up on the Zoom yet?
No hands up.
No hands up.
Oh, there's one here.
There's a
Hand up
gentleman in the room.
Good evening, Mike Pavero. This is a question, ethics is the topic. If you become a selectman, do you agree that that position is 24/7 when you hold that position?
So I forget where Rick first? Yeah.
Yes, I agree, it's a 24/7 job. You could be getting calls on the weekends, Sunday nights, Monday nights, it doesn't matter. You have to make yourself available because you are representing the town, and that is what it's about. That's what you run for. You have to be able to do that and take the calls and do the job.
Thank you. I think we're over to Anthony.
Hold on before I go back up.
why
I
don't
just
you-
want to clarify.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think I was clear. It's not as much as filling the 24/7 position as a selectman. It's how you conduct yourself 24/7 as a selectman.
Oh, absolutely. You have to conduct yourself a lot different than you do just as a resident. I mean, because you represent the town. There are a lot of things you can't do and get away with. And if you do those things, then you should be stepping down, in my eyes, because you don't have the right ethics for the job.
Thank you. I think it's Anthony next.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, whatever you do, you know, you're a representative of the town now. So, you know, drinking and driving, you know, that looks bad on the town. Anything you do, personal life now is a reflection on the town. So I agree with that. You know, I try to do the right thing all the time anyways, but you have to know that it's not just about you anymore. Now you are, you know, an elected official in the town, and you have to answer to it. If you do something wrong, then you have to, you know, take the consequences for it, you know, and not hide, I guess.
Thank you. And Dan?
So once elected, you can't take your selectman hat off. It stays on. It goes with any position that you get elected to.
Thank you.
Do you guys have an ethics pledge that you all signed?
There's an oath that the town clerk gives us. I believe there's a line in it regarding ethics, yeah. Yeah. I never got a selectman's hat. Did you guys get one when we issued those?
I didn't even get a badge.
I'd like maybe a sweatshirt and a hat. All right, go.
So, Mike, to answer your question, yeah, it's 24/7, understood. Not just the phone calls, but the way you conduct yourself. Not just here in this town either. Whether I'm at work or whether I'm in, you know, a different state. You hold yourself accountable to the way you live your life, and that's, I think, the answer you're looking for.
Thank you. Joe?
As an elected official for the past 12 or so years, I think I've been living this where, you know, you need to be on your guard all the time and present yourself properly, because you never know who's looking out for you when saying, you know, you did a misstep. So you really need to be on your A game all the time.
Thank you. And I think that was it on that question. Any other hands? Oh, Diane's got somebody? Excellent.
Hi, Amanda Aiello. I had a question. So far this year, how many Board of Selectmen meetings has each candidate attended?
So can we? Yeah, so there was a point of clarification. Attended physically or online via Zoom?
Physically or live via Zoom?
Okay, so let me make this easier so you don't have to keep walking up there, and I'll just go down the row. So Anthony?
Nobody's going to hear the answer, though.
I'm gonna say the,
Okay.
we're just, because it's really just a number, right? Okay. Okay, since the past election, Anthony's been, so since March, you've been to all of them. Dan?
I've been in person to 2 or 3, and then maybe 5 or 6 on Zoom.
Okay, 2 or 3 and 5 or 6. 2 or 3 physically, 5 or 6 on Zoom for Dan. Mike?
I know it's at least a half a dozen, but I'd say somewhere around 7 or 8 on Zoom.
7 or 8 on Zoom for Mr. Conley. Joe, I could answer this for you, Joe.
I've been here a lot, and I can't give you the right answer, but my wife will.
Exactly. We'll text her later. But Joe's been to, probably since the budget season, I think I've seen you at each one. And then Rick?
I've been here probably about 3 times in person since the election, but I've been watching these on TV live for the last several years.
Okay, so it's, for Rick, that was 3 or 4 since the March elections, and over the years, he always watches on cable. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Any hands up out there? Diane, come on.
All right. Well, a lot of my questions have been answered, which is a good thing. That means people were listening to the candidates tonight and have taken my questions seriously. And I appreciate that you did that. And you guys too. So I'm going to start out with letting you know this right up front. This is not a 4-hour-a-month job, okay? You need to put the time in. This is what's happening. We don't have people to put the time into this. So just bear that in mind when you're, if you're elected. So what happens now is we have documents that I will email you. I will put them on something called SharePoint. You will have a PC, which is just a laptop, and you'll be having to access those files before the meeting, if possible. I don't like to print things out that we don't have to, because that wastes paper. And it costs money to print, because you got toner, you've got all of that. So my question then is, are you familiar with using a PC? What Microsoft or other applications have you used in your career that would help with this situation?
Perfect. I think this was starting with Dan. That sound right? I lost my place. Yeah.
Gets it over with.
Right? I've used Microsoft all the way up to 11 at this point. Microsoft 365, Excel files, PowerPoint, pretty much everything that you guys would use, I've used. I don't have any issues with that. Was that all of it?
Yeah, as long as you can use a PC and you
Oh,
get
yeah, and I
Microsoft.
can use a PC.
Okay.
All right.
Mike?
So the answer to the question is yes. So any of the Microsoft products I'm very familiar with. As far as technology goes, I would love to see this town move forward a little bit further, so that being from the adjustment board, we don't spend the money on the paper that we get up in front of us, and that we can access a computer, because I look at schematics all day long. So I know it's doable, and I would love this town to move forward and save the money. Just to mail that to my house, the cost that the town has to absorb. So technology, if we can use it and drive it into this town, I'm an advocate for it.
Okay, Joe?
Currently, I'm on all the platforms, Microsoft 365. I have Windows 10. I haven't graduated to Windows 11 yet. I use Excel, PowerPoint, Word, all that stuff, so I don't have a problem with any of that. But I have to say that I do like to have paper in front of me sometimes to see things. Sometimes it's easier to read, so.
Thank you. And I think we're over to Rick.
I know how to use a computer, Microsoft Office, QuickBooks, all that. I use it all at my shop, so I'm okay with it.
Anthony?
Yes, I am a paper-free fan. I like using the PC, and I use Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Adobe. So any one of those. I've never used the Share software that you've talked about, but I'm sure I can figure it out.
Thank you. Diane, do you have another one on your list?
So, if you're
Starting with Mike, I think.
Okay, so if you're unable to fulfill this requirement, will you resign so that we ensure that there are 5 active members of this board?
I would, yes. The quick answer to that is yes. My hope is that illness and things like that don't happen, so that would avoid me from fulfilling that role. But if something comes up that was long-term and there couldn't be short-term arrangements made, I would definitely step down.
Joe?
My answer to that is yes, and I wouldn't be undertaking this endeavor if I didn't have the time to put in the for the commitment.
Thanks. Rick?
Yeah, the answer to that would be yes. If you can't fulfill it, you should step down.
Anthony?
Well, we probably shouldn't be sitting here if we can't fulfill it.
Agreed, totally agreed. That's why I'm
Right.
impressing upon you guys that this is not a cheap, not a, two-hour job.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. I have no intention on not fulfilling the position, but if, something happens and God forbid I get hurt or I can't do it, I will resign, but I'm not here because I'm not here to, take a seat that I can't fill.
Thank you.
Thanks. Dan?
I agree with Anthony. We wouldn't be here if we couldn't do it, and hopefully you'll let me zoom in from the hospital bed.
Hopefully that's not necessary.
Okay, so during elections,
So
okay,
this is
we need
starting with Joe.
Okay, we need a quorum of selectmen there. Are you able to give up a day and be at the polls? Now, think about this, because you have the presidential elections, you have the state primaries, and you have the town meetings. Are you able to give up part of your time or the whole day to be there so that there is a quorum?
So just to help you with
I'm not
this.
going to give them that option yet.
No, well, there's some years that's
Oh.
4 days.
Yes.
On the easiest year, I believe it is 2. In most years, it's 3, right? Did I
think
get
so,
that
yeah.
right? So,
That would not be an issue, but I would like to ask, is there a schedule that's put out so people know where they are, when they are, and how they are?
Are you talking about when the elections are being held?
No, is there a schedule put together, say, oh, you're here between 8 and 12, and you here between 3 and 7? Oh, the whole time, I mean.
You should
no.
be there the whole time.
Oh,
but-
I don't have a problem with that, but I'm asking, is it?
Okay, let me
There
put
has
this
been a
up.
problem in the past?
Yes, there needs to be a quorum, so that means a board of 5, you need to have
Yeah.
3 selectmen there.
Okay, no, that's part of the job, not a problem.
Okay.
Rick?
And the answer is yes. It's not a problem. You should be able to be there for the majority of the time. If you're not going to be there, you're going to have somebody to cover for you, so there's always 3.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
I pretty much make up my own schedule, so I'll be there on those days. Whether it's 4 days that year, 2 days another year, or 3 days, I'll just be there.
Dan?
Yeah, that's no problem. I've spent many times at the polling stations all day and then even staying for the count, so be no different.
And Mike?
Yes, not a problem.
Everybody's got that, right? No problems. Okay, so my last question. The NHMA, which is New Hampshire Municipal Association, they hold training sessions for the selectmen, for trustees of the trust fund. They hold them Monday through Fridays. Would you be able to attend any of those training sessions? The specific ones would be for the budget and to learn how to be a select person.
So I think we're starting with Rick. Yep.
Yeah, the answer would be yes. It's a very valuable one to attend, just so you can understand more about the budget. And the things you can learn, you can bring back with you, and potentially even help the other selectmen that aren't there.
Anthony?
Yes, I would attend those classes whenever they are. Monday through Friday, it doesn't matter.
Dan?
Not a problem attending those classes. It's always good to learn.
Mike?
Yes, and I look forward to it.
Joe?
Needless to say, that wouldn't be a problem, because getting back to one of Bob's first questions, you need to find out what you don't know. And I've been to some of the trustee training sessions, and you always pick a little tidbits here and there.
Just a comment,
Okay.
because I find it interesting that they can all be at these meetings, and they can all take these courses, and they can be there at the, can I have one of your jobs? I would have to take time off to do any of that.
She's available January 1st.
Good
all right.
answer.
So, Charlie, I think, has a question. That was your last one,
done.
right?
I'm good.
Charlie has one?
We're looking at possibly a $2 increase in the school tax. I can be corrected because there's a school member here. And we're also looking at a 5% on the county. I do not know the number on the state just yet. Are you willing to stand up here? Because in November, we're going to be doing, well, our tax bills will come out, we'll be paying them in December, and the elections will be coming up in March. Are you willing to stand up here and fight to increase budgets, i.e. the road agents, because his is way too low, and it's been way too low for years, and are you willing to stand up here and fight for that?
Yeah, Joe, I lost my place, but
Yeah, I would not have a problem with that because I've been advocating for a while, as you folks well know, that our infrastructure is falling down around us. And we need to start addressing it because we haven't been doing it for the past 10 to 15 years. So I would not have a problem.
You do realize that you're going to take a lot of heat.
It's part of the job.
I'm just letting you know.
It's one of those things where you have to make the decisions that are best for the town.
Okay.
all right, Rick.
Yeah, I would be able to do that. I have no problem with it. I know he needs more money for the roads, you know. I mean, I've been plowing for the town for the last 14 years, and the roads are just getting worse. They're not getting better.
Anthony?
Yeah, I have no problem with needing more money. I would just, you know, we gotta find a way to get it. The answer, I guess, isn't always just to go to the taxpayers and say, you gotta pay more.
It's the only way.
It might be the only way, but I've seen in the books that there's a couple of departments that are over budgeted that never, in the past couple of years, 4 or 5 years, haven't used their budget. So maybe we gotta relook at changing their budgets, taking that money, putting it towards a road agent or putting it somewhere else instead of just going right away to the taxpayers. But if we need the money, we gotta get the money. If it does come down to getting it from taxpayers, then we'll have to do that. But I'd like to look at alternative ways first.
Thank you. Dan?
So aside from the budget, and you have to get this money, right? Let's play it like that. We can't find it in the budget. We have to go to the taxpayer to get it. You need to campaign for this, almost. You need to run this and get out in front of it now. This is coming, and tell everybody this is coming. This increase is coming because we need it for our roads. Not wait. You guys vote on it, put it on the warrant as a separate article, and then everybody's like, what the heck is this? Got to get out in front of it, and everybody needs to know.
Thanks, Mike.
So yes, the simple answer to the question is yes, but I'm gonna agree. Communication, and it's not easy, right? But communicating ahead of time, letting people know. I think part of the problem that we have in the town is that people aren't listening, right? So it's a two-way street. But if I were to be elected and to just sit on this, there would be a lot of communication at the ground level, making sure people understood, because what hurts me the most is that people come to vote, and then start asking questions then. What does this mean? Why is that there? So I don't think we do a bad job educating, getting the campaigns out, but I think for some reason people, it's always somebody else's. We've lost that sense of duty, and we need to bring kind of that back into the town. So I'll leave that there.
Thank you.
Joe? Or did we already get you? It's getting late. All right, so Charlie had a question. Bob, while we're up here, do you have any still?
One more, I was just trying to, the way I want to phrase it, is to ask the candidates about discipline. that a great deal of time that this can be a very thankless job because of everything that you guys have talked about tonight, right? The school budget that's going to happen, our budget that happens, everything, the infrastructure and all of that. Mike needed money for our roads because he doesn't have enough. The ability to, well, it's very important that we have these public meetings and the public knows, but there are also things that can't be put out in the public at certain times, thus we have non-public meetings about it. When you have your friends and your families and you get together and you might have a cocktail or two, do you have the discipline enough to say no, like Mike was talking about to his question, to be able to walk away from the booze and then walk away from that conversation and not to start to discuss matters that have no premise being put out there, because it would be damaging not only to the town, but to the business at hand that needs to be addressed and taken care of.
So I think it's Rick we're starting with, if I remembered correctly, so.
The answer would be yes, you gotta have enough discipline. That's why they're a non-public meeting. You know, it's so that the board can discuss things before the public meeting.
Anthony?
Yeah, the answer is yes. It's personal and business life, you know, whatever happens in the non-public meeting stays in the non-public meeting. It doesn't get brought up anywhere else. Not a problem.
Dan?
Being a part of a bunch of non-publics, I don't even share that stuff with my wife, still to this day, so it's not a problem.
Mike?
So I think you're asking, do I have, or we have integrity to keep our mouths shut? And the answer to that is yes. Right? There's a difference between having a cocktail and having a social. If somebody wants to come talk to me about shop, same thing at work. Certain levels below me don't get to have the information that I have, right? Same thing. I take that same approach to have the integrity not to open my mouth.
Thanks, Joe?
The answer is yes, I've had to do that in my past professional life, so that would not be a problem.
Thank you. All right, out to the floor for, you have a question? Yeah, go ahead. You can't answer it, though. That's the only way.
It's easy. I don't have to use it. So I just want to make sure. So the reason why I'm on the planning board is because it was an empty position. So I hope that during elections that everybody that's here, their name's on the selectman ballot, regardless who wins.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I would actually do that. You know, I was commenting to somebody the other day that since I've lived in town, and some people have lived here longer, I don't ever remember 7 names on the selectmen's ballot, right? We have 7 names tonight. That's awesome. And they're new faces, you know what I mean? Like, they haven't run for selectmen before. Bob and I had the discussion when he first signed up. You know, you were the only name on the ballot for a couple of weeks, right? And I said, no offense, Bob, but you shouldn't run unopposed, you know? And no offense to the people who are incumbents, but in March, there will be 3 spots up for grabs in March. Like you said, we should have at least 7, hopefully more. Any other questions off the floor? On the Zoom, anybody? All right, I only have 15 more questions and we can get out of here. I'm joking. So, yeah, exactly. I think I kind of speak for the board. I appreciate everybody's time tonight. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, especially, you know, normally you're up here doing a Meet the Candidates night, which we've all done, and then, you know, there's going to be, hopefully, thousands of people. Have there ever been thousands? Yeah, there. Hopefully thousands of people will Exactly. And so hopefully people will turn out and vote. We have to kind of stand in for the voters, at least for a 10-month process. So sometimes the questions are a little more grueling because it sits on our shoulders, I think is what we're saying. So if there is no other business for tonight,
Do you want to figure out what the process is going to be? You know, when are you going to announce your decisions?
yeah, I mean, jump in if I have this wrong, but I think what we should probably do is the meeting will come to order at 6 PM on Tuesday. I think it should be the first agenda item. So hopefully it won't be a long process, and the town clerk has stated that she's going to come with a blank oath of office, and she will administer the oath of office on the spot, and that person can take one of the empty seats here and get right to work with us. I think the plan is to do our non-public at the end of that meeting on Tuesday, so that way that person could also participate in the non-public. So, does that sound doable to the board?
Sounds like a winner.
So be it.
All right,
So do you want all of these individuals back here on Tuesday night?
I think so. I think so, yeah. You know, and the other thing I'll add is, at least speaking for myself, is, you know, we can only choose one, right? Each of us only has one vote. And in the end, we only choose one, but I congratulate you all for going through this process. It's not going to be personal with me at all. I'm going to take a look at, as I always do as a voter, I'm going to look at the qualifications and vote for whoever I think has the best qualifications. And that can only be one this time around. I'd love it if it could be more, but everybody can help the town if you don't already sit on a board. You can help the town right now. The planning board needs people. I believe the ZBA needs people. Conservation needs people. Recreation needs people. You know, so the opportunities are there. Stay involved, you know. All right, anybody, Diane, we good with, there's no other business that we, okay.
I would just like to say thank you for everybody for stepping up. It's nice to see.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. We'll see you back here on Tuesday night. Thank you.